All right, welcome back to a Raptors podcast. I'm your host, as always, Lucky Roberts. Sorry for the little break I took. I decided I was going to record the next podcast after the trade deadline, and then things come up as they always do. But I'm here, back, ready to talk about that trade deadline and do a quick, brief recap of the week that did just pass. It was a busy trade deadline for the Toronto Raptors, making 3 deals, one very consequential, two others that were sort of just on the fringes, similar to what we did last off-season. I guess not off-season, last trade deadline. The first one happened on the 5th on Wednesday. It was a trade for Brandon Ingram, and my first initial reaction to this deal was frustration because it didn't really make a lot of sense. Brandon Ingram, I feel like, is one of the most overpaid players in the NBA. I don't like that he does nothing on defense. He sort of seems redundant on our roster, as we already have score first forward like Scotty Barnes, but I think he does want to transition to being more of a pass first forward. So I can understand that a little bit. But then you look at what we gave up for Brandon Ingram, and usually you would assume that we would have to give up multiple first round picks, and that's why it didn't really make a lot of sense, because we're getting a guy for multiple first round picks when we're supposed to be tanking this year. And it just seemed like, why are we buying at this current moment? But then we look up, we gave away Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, who was going to be gone either way. So that's how they make the contracts match up, is Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown. We decided to keep Boucher instead of Olynyk. Interesting point little there. A first round pick and 1 second rounder. So almost the 2 first round picks, but 1 first rounder and a second rounder. And I'm still thinking that's a little steep, because if we're giving up our own first round pick to get Brandon Ingram, that could be a really good first round pick going in the future. We're currently the 5th worst team in the NBA, and we're buying. But then the first round pick we give away is the Pacers, who are good this year, and it's for next year's Pacers pick, and they're going to be good next year. Okay, that's not too bad. It's a top 4 protected as well, so we have it covered. And the second rounder, it's a second rounder, right? Whatever. We'll give that one away. And it honestly, getting Brandon Ingram for this low of a price makes you feel a lot better about the Pascal Siakam trade, because that one seemed like to be a complete wash. And instead of getting this 20th pick as our prized jewel of the Pacers, of the Pascal Siakam deal, I know we got Ochai and we got a bunch of different things, but it didn't seem enough for the level of player Pascal Siakam is. And you can say, okay, we got some first round picks, we made some deals, and what we really got was Brandon Ingram. And sure, he's not as good as Pascal Siakam, but he's probably not going to have to be paid as much, and he's offensively, I'd say, the same level of player. Defensively, that's where Siakam shines a lot better than Brandon Ingram. And hopefully this team is hoping that his deficiencies defensively can be covered by the spectacular defense of Scotty Barnes and the defense of Jakob Poeltl, which I think is fine. I thought we were going to see Jakob Poeltl gone in this trade deadline, but I think what Masai and Bobby saw in this team and can see in with this team, I think they're getting not only that, what they see, but also they're hearing Scotty Barnes saying, hey, we got to compete. I'm 4 years into this thing. We're not competing. We're at the worst we've ever been. We need to turn this thing around quick. So they make this deal for Brandon Ingram, and he's probably going to sit out for the rest of the season. We're going to get a good pick, and then we're turning it around next year. And so if you look at the actual roster going into next season, well, we did it. The other trades we do tie into this because we got a bunch of cash back. The other trades we made was Davion Mitchell gone, who we already had a Davion Mitchell in the fact that we have Jamal Shed. And I went to the game against the Grizzlies on Wednesday, and it was a similar thing. Davion Mitchell was worse than Jamal Shed was in that game, and Jamal Shed did a much better job of facilitating. He felt like he was putting he was a lot more intentional with his movements and with his passes, and maybe that was because Davion had an idea that he was going to be moved, and maybe Davion's a slightly better defender than Jamal Shed is, but I think Shed can totally reach that level. So he's redundant. So we trade away Davion Mitchell, and we get a second-round pick, PJ Tucker, who's going to retire as a Raptor after being drafted a Raptor and come back for half a season. going to retire at the age of 39 with the Raptors. Probably I don't see him continuing after this season. And then also cash considerations. And then you look at this other deal. The final deal we made was we got James Wiseman, which surprised some people. We got James Wiseman basically for free. He's rehabbing a knee injury. And people got excited about this James Wiseman deal. Oh, look at that. It's like former second overall pick. James Wiseman can do something. And then, oh, wait, James Wiseman is waived. So it was very clear this was just to get the cash so that we're able to pay everybody and stay under the umbrella, which we should be able to do just barely, as long as Ingram's extension in the offseason doesn't turn out to be a lot of money. We'll have to see. And so you're betting on your development to develop the defensive side of his game, and you're depending on your development to make him a more better passer. But if you can get those things out of Ingram and you get him to sit out most of this season, and the Raptors still get a top 6 pick, I think this is a good deal because you're getting him for like 30 cents on the dollar. Brandon Ingram can be a star in this league. I think he's made one all-star team, and so getting this cash, making it all work, really puts the Raptors in a great position to compete for next season. We have a very expensive roster at this point, but it's a pretty strong roster just looking at the current the current players that we're going to have for next season. And this isn't even if, we can make some more moves on the fringes, but I think you've got Scotty Barnes, obviously. Let me just pull this up real quick. I saw a tweet that did it, and I just want to make sure. Raptors roster 2026. Here we go. Yeah. We have IQ, RJ, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Pirtle, which is a stellar starting lineup. You do have worries defensively having IQ, RJ, Brandon Ingram, and so I would like to see either Ingram step up his defense, RJ step up his defense. I don't think that's possible. IQ, I think, is possible. Yeah, I think you really need IQ to be a point of contention for him to really develop the defensive side of his game and be a point of attack defender. And so you take their ball handler and just cause havoc so that when, you allow RJ and Brandon Ingram to cause a little bit less havoc as they're going to do. And then the bench as well, Jamal Shed, Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, Mobo, and it was going to be Wiseman. That was before he got gone. But I think you also add in, so I think you move Mobo maybe to backup center. You move Ochai to power forward, Mobo, Jacoby, Grady, Shed, right? And then you also add the lotto pick, which I think is really looking to be some sort of big man. If you don't, and even Cooper Flag is big himself, but if you don't get Flag, looking into this draft, get the Raptors a shooting big, a passing big, somebody who fits into Darko's system a little bit better than Podol does. Podol can be your traditional back to basket big. You get your young big coming in who can shoot, who can be a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more dynamic defensively. If you absolutely need to, you can slide him in at the 4, Scotty to the 3 to up the team's defense. I think that roster, as it is constructed, is actually pretty strong. You're 7 guys deep with proven starters in this league. And then you have the lottery pick, Shed, Jacoby, Mobo, who can all take a step up. And as well, Jamison Battle, who we did just convert to a 3-year deal just an hour ago. So if we're able to do that, and he's been decent for us as just a swing guy who can hit a 3 when we need to, eat up 5 minutes a game if we need him to. I think that's a competitive roster. I think it is, and this is not even debating whether or not Scotty can take another step up, whether IQ and RJ can figure out some stuff defensively. Shed can take a step up. Jacoby or Mobo can take a step up in the offseason. Then this roster looks really, really, really strong. And honestly, it's going to be a struggle to find everybody's pecking order, to find where everybody fits in. I think that's going to be the biggest issue. I think Pirtle is totally capable of taking a step back, playing more defense, not taking a lot of shots. Okay, Scotty's going to want his shots. IQ's going to want his shots. RJ's going to want his shots. BI's going to want his shots. It's going to be hard, and even Grady's going to want his shots. It's going to be hard to fit those 5 guys into a system where everybody understands their pecking order and understands, okay, I'm not the best player on this team. I'm going to do what we need to get us to victory. And that's why I think quickly, especially, take a step back, improve your defense, sort of fill in that Kyle Lowry role of 2016. I know he's not nearly the player that Kyle Lowry was, just as a passer and as a defender. But I think if he can get those skills up, that's sort of the role we want him to fill in, and have RJ, Ingram, Scotty be more of attackers. And Scotty might even want to take a step back. BI, RJ, Grady scores, Jacoby scores, right? And so we'll figure it out, but it's going to be interesting to see how this team does peck that order. And I think this really just signals, look, we're going to be a really good team next year. We need to get, and what we need is a big. What we need is a backup big who can play a little bit of the 4, because I don't think Mobo is going to be able to eat those minutes on a competitive team. So at least not right now. Maybe if he takes a big step next offseason, we'll see. But yeah, I think the rest of the season, just tank. Find injuries when you can find them. Get players developing a little bit. Get the Jacoby, the Mobo, the Sheds, the Battles. Get them developing. Everybody else, take a little bit of time off. Figure out your defense. Figure out how this is going to work. So when we come back for next season, we can compete. Anyway, I took a little too long on that rant on the trade deadline, but let's just quickly go over some of the games. The Raptors started the week with a win over the Washington Wizards. Scotty Barnes was great in this one. He had 24 points, and he was great at just letting the offense come to him. He had 4 assists, 4 rebounds. Davion Mitchell ran the offense in this one, but we really just dominated their starters. Their starters are would-be bench guys on basically every other team. Jordan Poole, 1 for 9, yikes. Bilal Coulibaly, who I'm usually a fan of, 1 for 6, yikes. Could not hit a 3-pointer. JV, Valanciunas, 11 rebounds. They're just the aisle of misfit toys, and Kyle Kuzma was good in this game, so they shipped him off because he was too good for this team. Washington might be the worst team ever. It's really incredible looking at all these guys and how just horrid they are, because a bad defensive team like the Raptors were able to hold them to 82 points just because they weren't making shots. They were 5 for 30 from 3, 38% from the field, just really struggled, and they don't have a point guard who can create for others. They don't have players who can create for themselves. It's really bad basketball to watch. They are now 6-40. Then we had a game against the Bulls, which the Bulls did beat against us, and that game against the Wizards was like, okay, the Raptors may be winning too much. But then we fall back, we lose to the Bulls. Kobe White has a great one, Vucevic with a good game as well. Lonzo Ball, who I think the Bulls were trying to ship, I'm not sure if they were able to, trying to ship away because they have a lot of guards. They have Giddey, they have the Sunmu, who also started in this game. Neither of them were really quite impactful. And then they have Buzelis as well off the bench. They have a lot of guards, and something Kenny Beecham, king of the fourth quarter, was saying, like, I can't believe we didn't trade any of our 6 guards because we have 6 point guards right now. So they'll figure it out. They are also struggling, and a team that looks to be taking a step back into the lottery, trying to take a step back into lottery, into rebuilding, as they've kept DeMar DeRozan. Not they've kept DeMar DeRozan, sorry. Of course, he's never been on the team this year. They traded away, oh my God, the guy they were overpaying. Anyway, he's gone. Doesn't even matter. But he's gone, and yeah, they're taking a step back. The Raptors did, though, and so losing to them, unfortunate. They did beat the Clippers, which Kawhi Leonard played in. Good to see him back on a Raptors court, unfortunately in the wrong jersey. But the Raptors showed that, they can beat a team like the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard. And yeah, James Harden was good in this one. Didn't hit a lot of threes, but ran the offense. 7 assists. Zubac as well. Podol didn't do a great job on him. Rough game for Pirtle defensively. And then this starts this sort of string of games where Scotty isn't being forceful enough. I've been annoyed with him this season because he's been a little too forceful, especially with shooting threes and mid-range shots. In the last couple of games, he hasn't been forceful enough, and he hasn't found his time that he needs to take over. And he was 2 for 2 from 3 in this game, 6 for 12, but only took 12 shots, where you have Barrett taking 21 in a game where he wasn't that efficient. You would like to see a little more. You'd like to see them at the same amount of shot attempts. Jacoby Walter with 11 attempts. And so Scotty needs to impact this game. And we did win, so it was good to see him take a step back, and it proved to be victorious. But it just strung a couple of games together where it did become an issue, like this Knicks game where Scotty Barnes with 23 points was better in this one, but still 1 for 5 from 3, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. But it was everybody else who just didn't really pick up the baton. Emmanuel Quickley was back for this one, only played 21 minutes. However, he's been in and out of the lineup. He had 9 points, not really impressing in his games where he is back. And the Raptors just really struggled guarding the strong offensive players of the New York Knicks. Both Cat and Jalen Brunson were really hard to guard from a Raptors perspective. And you think, well, we can guard Cat, but Cat has an ability to stretch out the defense, and that brings Pirtle out of his happy little place under the basket, and it brings Pirtle out to the three-point line. And then that's where the holes and the gaps in our defense really, really emerge, because Pirtle plugs a lot of them. He plugs a lot of those holes. And he gets injured in this one, so Cat goes off even more, and it was really tough. He had 5 points, and he wasn't really able to be a really strong defender in this one, and it was forcing Scotty to just take on even more. And, Quickly's not a great defender. We're starting Jacoby Walter and Grady Dick. Neither of them are accomplished defenders either. We got 23 minutes of Mobo, but Kelly Olynyk, God knows he's not a great defender. It was really rough for the Raptors. Good game from Jamal Shed, though, off the bench, and I think this was sort of like, I don't think we really need both Davion Mitchell and Jamal Shed. And you can see DNP from Davion Mitchell in this Grizzlies games. It was a coach's decision DNP of Chris Boucher, because I think we were planning on trading these guys. And that's something my mom pointed out when I was at the game with her. She's like, why isn't Boucher playing? And I was like, I wonder why Boucher isn't playing. And then I took a second and I was like, trade deadline's tomorrow. Probably don't want him to get injured. But he stays on the Raptors either way. And we did play Kelly Olynyk in this one either way, because I guess we needed a big, because we see Orlando Robinson getting 3 minutes in this one. But this was really, really frustrating. Scotty Barnes with 4 for 18, 0 for 7, chucking, 7 assists, but he was not as dominant as you would like to see him. 11 points in total. Kelly Olynyk as well, 3 for 11. And when this Raptors team isn't making the three-pointer, it's really bad basketball. And then the second half, it was really, really bad basketball, where the Memphis Grizzlies just scored 43 and 42 in the fourth. They were hitting their threes. And Jaren Jackson Jr. was unstoppable in this one. He was 4 for 5 from 3, which was impressive. But it wasn't only that. It was also rebounding and putting it into the paint through Kelly Olynyk. We literally every single, they started Zach Edey, Jaren Jackson Jr., and we're starting Kelly Olynyk and Scotty Barnes in our front court. That's a mismatch. Zach Edey has 6 offensive rebounds for 15 points, and 15 total rebounds and 13 points. Jaren Jackson Jr. with 3 offensive rebounds, 32 points. Because Kelly Olynyk on either of those guys, but especially on Zach Edey, is a mismatch. And the Raptors every single time had to send a double, and that leaves open shooters, and they're going to knock it down. Like John Morant was 3 for 7. Obviously, Jaren Jackson Jr. hit him down. Scottie Pippen was great in this game, Jr. He hit 4 for 5 threes, and it just caused way too many problems, and it just shows the impact that Pirtle does have, and it shows the need for the Raptors to have a big that can guard other bigs in the draft, because we can't it's putting too much pressure on Pirtle to just have that be be it all him, and especially when we don't have him in the game, it just adds a lot of issues. But I liked what I saw in this game from Jacoby Walter. He had 14 points. I liked what I saw from Ochai Abaji, 14 points as well for him. Hit his threes. Once again, if he's hitting his threes, he'll have a roster spot on the Raptors. Mobo as well. Defensively, I didn't love what I saw from him, but he did get 6 rebounds and was active with cuts and stuff and hit 2 threes, which is kind of incredible for him. Bruce Brown, yeah, I'm happy we got him off the roster. He was not good, and people were saying, we can get first-round picks for Bruce Brown. No, I don't think we can. We were just lucky enough to even get him as a salary filler in a trade. Bye-bye, Bruce. And then John Morant, who was chatting a lot of stuff to the Raptors bench, went off for 26 and 4 and 5. And it's just good. Honestly, it was probably a good loss for the Raptors, who were leading after halftime, to get a loss going. They have been a little too good, and there's a possibility we could pass the Philadelphia 76ers for that 7th worst record. And if we get that 7th worst record, all of a sudden our chances for the first overall pick drops to 7%. We would like to keep that around the 10s, at worst 9%, which is only 5% less than 14. Yes, I'm pretty good at math. And so if we can stay below Brooklyn, perfect. That's a nice 11-12% first overall pick chance. If we drop below the Brooklyn Nets, win too many games, which I think is very possible. Okay, we still have the 6 overall odds. It's still 9%. That's still pretty decent. If we pass the 76ers, that's when it becomes an issue. If we pass the Spurs or the Blazers, that's when it becomes an issue. Blazers are 9-1 in the last 10 games, by the way. So maybe it won't happen against the Blazers. They've really been helpful for the Raptors to establish our bottom 6 worst odds. But anyway, thanks for listening to our Raptors podcast. I'm your host, Lucky Roberts. I appreciate you guys for listening. It's been a little bit of a long episode, a little bit of a hiatus for me. Back at it, and I'll be back pretty quickly here with a Monday episode probably on those games over the weekend for the Raptors, which those games will be over the weekend. A game against the Thunder, so another loss probably up on the schedule. And then a Sunday game against Houston, which is probably another loss, but good to see Freddie VanVleet once again. So I'll see you guys after those games, and maybe I'll recap a little bit of the trade deadline stuff once again. But yeah, good to be back, and maybe we'll see Brandon Ingram in Raptors jersey on the court pretty soon, but hopefully not, because we want to keep our pick as good as possible. So thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys next time, and don't have to follow me on Twitter, but you can follow me at Lucky Roberts. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys next time.